take a picture, if you don't mind, just to test how you look before and after the lecture. You're going to be much more smarter, I think. So this is the sign, our sign. Okay, when I did like that, you flip and they will think that. Okay. So my name is Ofer Cohen. I'm from Israel. I've started to work with Joomla, I think I should stand here, since 2007. I'm open source evangelist in Israel, volunteering in all open source fields, Linux, Apache, MySQL, Nginx, and especially Joomla, okay? I've been working with Joomla till 2010, and then I moved to another company that doesn't work with Joomla. Since 2010, I have no daily job with Joomla. I even have some Drupal projects, Zen framework, and other projects, but I continue to contribute to Joomla. Okay, this is part of my job, and this is what I'm doing in Israel. And my daily job today is R&D manager in a company called Engage. Engage did something else with email service providers. If you buy beer, I'll tell you the startup idea. And I think I'm a little bit nervous, so so I forgot about it. It's working. Okay, can you take one back? It's like this. And this is too much back. So it's funny. Okay. I've resigned my last job in January and stopped working there because I started with closed source. And I had 2 months in home, and I started to develop some extension. One of them is on my T-shirts, and this is how we start. So let's start with my lecture about the Joomla. Joomla is a big usage in.
You are now in Open Source Matters.
You didn't say that. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. I've written this presentation 3 weeks ago. It was before I elected to the OSM board, and I started to work yesterday with all the crazy. Okay, sorry for forget that. One back. I just sneak you. Okay. Okay, so Joomla is a big usage in the world. It's 2.8% of all websites. This means that we have today 300 million websites. It means that Joomla have something about 10 million websites. So this application should be very extensible, and used for a lot of purposes and usages. I'm going to explain about the architecture. So when I've written this lecture, I've been asking what is architecture, and this seems like something that's obvious. But when I've read Wikipedia, this is the first and the third, and I took the second from Wikipedia, and then I've noticed that there is a mistake in the second sentence. The main idea of architecture is planning and designing, but not just that. It's for when you upgrade or extend your application, it should be easy. Okay? Easy for extending. It's very common sense in the architecture world, and even in the software architecture, it's the blueprint of the software. So, revealed. Who cares? Okay, I see that a lot of people here. I thought that there would be going to be 10 people. All of them, I told them, come here. But the reason for that is the first is my Joomla site is slow. This is the first reason that people say why my Joomla site is slow. The second is hacked. This is 2 articles I'm going to write to the magazine. How to protect your website and how to make your website optimized. The second is when you ask to build a complicated site. It's one of the main issues of Joomla, because Joomla, not like WordPress that is mainly ideas for blogs. Joomla should be work for all the kind of website. This is the main purpose of Joomla. And if you want to build something complicated with a lot of components and dependencies between components, you should know how to synchronize the plugins, the extensions. Okay, so let's start with object-oriented. This presentation started from a design pattern that I make 2 years ago, I think. I did it very interactive, and I ask always, what do you think? And the audience answer me. And one of them was my CTO, and my first question was something, and he answered me the answer, and answered me. And he answered the question, and the next slide was this answer, but with X in it. So we need to do simple steps. First of all, who knows here what is object-oriented? Familiar with that? Okay. So object-oriented in simple words is make your programming like other architecture, like a car or like a fan or refrigerator. You just lose couple and separate the parts of the program. For example, if you take the car, you have the methods and properties of the car, wheels, other parts, and you should know how to separate it without dependencies. So if you need to move right, so your vehicle should move right without dependencies that lose, okay? And the main purpose of the object-oriented we are using here are the tricks, okay? The tricks is design patterns, okay? We are talking here design patterns, and main reason that we moved the object-oriented in Joomla in 1.5, it was the MVC, okay? Who heard about MVC here? Okay, we moved in 1.5 to MVC, and the main reason was we moving to object-oriented is use the MVC pattern. Okay, before we go into the object-oriented, we'll just show you how Joomla trigger. First of all, the index.php load. All of you show the index.php, and the index.php do simple stuff. It just load the constant configuration application. I need trigger with the configuration PHP file, and routing. Routing is what makes the URL take the URL and know what to do. Then the component dispatch, the template render, and then you push it to the client. It sounds very simple, very how it all makes with components and plugins with this simple index.php. So let's move it to the main thing that happened, okay? After all the configuration bootstrap load, Joomla just dispatched the component. Who write here component? Okay, we have a lot. So when you write a component, you write a one unit, simple unit. When you put it to Joomla, it's just going to this place. After bootstrap, you just dispatch the component, okay? But the main idea that we have plugin that I will explain it later, but you have triggers that you can override components and modules and template. So before and after dispatch, we have plugin. On before the dispatch, on after dispatch, this is before the component is fired and after the component is fired, okay? Then the template. The template is renderer with its modules. Everybody know what is JDog in template? So JDog is just marks in the template that each one is representative something else in the template. For example, you have the JDog modules, you have the JDog header, you have JDog for component and message. This is renderers that Joomla know how to handle it. So the template is rendered with its modules. This is the main part because this is not separated. The modules are part of the template. Okay. The main idea is that as the component trigger, the template have before render and after render. That means that you can do something after all the template render, after all the HTML. For example, if you want to push JavaScript into the end of the HTML, you can make a plugin with on after render and push some JavaScript that you want. Okay, let's go inside the template. As I said, I think we missed a. Okay, let's move to the MVC pattern. The MVC pattern started with, I think, in the 70s with Xerox, who I think invited the object-oriented also, and the user interface they invited. And the MVC object-oriented started in a language called Smalltalk in 70s. This is a brief history about it. And the idea is to divide your application to three main parts. Okay, component is confusing a little bit. So you have your input that represent the controller. You take the input and know what to do with it. You have the process, the logic of your component, that is the model, that you have SQL database, some logic to do. And the third part is the view, is what the user interface look like. And this is it make it very easy to elaborate for few programmers if you need to build a massive component. So it's divided to three, and you can one for model, one for view, and one for controller. This is the MVC. Question till now? No? So, okay. As I said, the advantage of MVC, when you start with MVC for the first time, you say, oh, I just need 3 files for one simple task. Okay, this is the feeling when you do the hello world example, but you feel the real advantage of this MVC pattern when you started to extend it and upgrade it, and when your product manager say to you, hey, I want to add this and this, and this is when you feel, oh, I'm such a lucky that I use MVC. Yeah, it happened to you, yeah?
Not with this, but I know similar things. Not with Joomla, but yeah.
Okay, so MVC is a big advance. It makes your code very strict and arranged, and you don't have spaghetti code if you heard about that. And we can move on. Okay, let's get back to plugin. Plugin is based on observer pattern. Somebody heard about observer? Yeah, this is a lot of frameworks have plugins, but the developers don't know what is observer. But the gun over there it's what does the plugin is, observer is. So it just you put it line of code and tell it, hey, I want to fire something here for other programmers, for example. But it doesn't kill anyone. So when you want to make event driver, like and before create content, or after create content, or before user delete, there is simple trigger that telling it trigger this event, and that's all what you do. Because who wants to extend this library like Joomla can use it. Means that in Joomla we have only triggers in the core, but in the core for some of the triggers we don't use, but a lot of extensions use. Okay? One thing that we should, okay, before that, back. One thing that you should do if you're an extension developer, that you can make efforts for your user and your developers for extension, that you can make simple event that others can use and continue to develop. This is the advantage of GPL, that you can trigger something like if you are building a cart, you can trigger event like on after sell, on after sell, on before sell, on after buy, on before buy, and other developers can continue and extend your product. Okay, this is very, very. You move it too back, I think. Yeah. That's all.
This? Okay.
Okay, never mind. Okay, what about the time? Okay, move. So factory. Everybody know JFactory? Factory is something that help you to get all your products. I mean, user, session, and database, cache. There is more than that. And the main usage is that you should not use your own code to get the user or get the session, because it's, first of all, it's not singleton that I talk in the next slide, and you just invent the wheel. You shouldn't make select or update the user with your own code. You just use the method that Joomla give you with its entities. Okay, and again, the singleton is very important and less spaghetti code. So if you need to do something with the user, you just call the factory and it's singleton. Who knows here what is singleton is? Okay. You're going to be the start of the evening. Singleton in few words. It's help you to reduce and return for each call again and again. And it's reduce your code. And the most important is you have one instance for one object. This is very important. And if you use the JFactory, it's make it very easy. And if you see that AWS cloud service for CPU, and this saves CPU and memory especially, and reduce your code. Okay. Bridge. Okay, this is the main bridge, something here about that design pattern. I know that Michael was here before me, and he talked about a lot of improvement in the code. Some of them I did for the JHTP. They decoupling and make a lot of bridges. And what is bridges? The main purpose of it is that you can separate the code and your program different parts, and it was much easier, especially in open source, that you have thousands of developers and you separate your program parts into independently, loose couple in the professional world. So how Joomla did, who knows where Joomla use it? Nobody knows, okay. So, bridge, JDatabase. Okay, this is, the words are very complicated, but I am going to explain it and give a code example. Okay. When you use MySQL and SQL Server, you just give me object of type MySQL or SQL Server, and this object is called JDatabase, call its inheritance object, but you don't know it. You just know that he makes simple calls that you need. Like if you need database, you know that he have a set query, update, delete, and how we did it. So move it to the. So here is the example. It's very simple. It's not the all function. Okay, pay attention that the driver here is make new class for driver that passed him in the argument. So the specific class, who called this function, you don't know it, but you know that its methods are done because it's abstract. Okay. This is very usable. We use it in the platform also with JHTP, and I think with a renderer. And I think they push it for, Louis push it a lot. And we separate things because if we want someone to work on SQL Server without dependency on MySQL, so this is how Joomla will do it. This is very, very useful. I use it in a lot of projects I did, not just in Joomla, in Zend, on Kohana, Node.js. I did it, and it's very helpful, especially when you're a team leader and you have 5 or 6 programmers and you need to separate for and not depend on each other. Okay, next one. Adapter. So adapter is a simple one. It just pull data or use, for example, in database, if you need MySQL and SQL Server, you have simple methods that you need to implement. If it's database, it's, for example, as I said, update, select, and simple, and each method and each object should be doed. If it's database, it's all MySQL, MSQL, Postgre should do the same methods. And another example is the renderer object. And next. Okay, I know that you have a question in the last lecture, in the last presentation about the Edge MVC. So this is the future. Edge MVC, I'll give a few words from my experience with Kohana. Kohana is built with Edge MVC. Edge MVC help you to distribute the simple MVC. I know that they use it in the UCM. So if I have some content with MVC, I can overwrite it with other type of content. I think this is the reason they use Edge MVC. I still don't see the whole code of Joomla, but I see the Kohana how they did it. So when the controller when someone call the controller can decide that he don't want to do the job. He call to other controller. This is how Edge MVC done. I think that when Joomla will push it into platform, and Luis just did a push, a lot of words will push that. Another point is UCM. You all heard about it, and so the reason that we need UCM is the simple that if we need a query that pull articles and products in the same query, we can do it today because we need to pull first from the content table and then to pull it from the products in the virtual mart. And this is the UCM is the solution for that because all the content are based on the same table, and each type have its extensive. For example, product would have more fields than article, but we can pull at the same query both of them. This is very, very advantage. I know that Drupal use CCK, and their CCK are very strong. And I think I'm done. Oh, Thrice, I think it's more advanced one. Thrice is the long tail story, and I know that Andrew already talked about it. Thrice is when you need that your object and inheritance use on one inheritance, and the other one doesn't need the inheritance. And for example, is the long tail. Long tail is just the tail. If you describe the animals with object, and the father have tail, and the son don't have tail, and the son of the son have tail, you can use Trite for this purpose. Okay, this is in short about Trite and UCM and Edge MVC. If you can extend about it if you have more questions. Another issue, I think I'm done. Just put it. The conclusion from my lecture I need to go out is when you build. Who is a programmer here, by the way? Okay, so it's the main purpose of the conclusion is here. When you build something, only the problem is the complicated. This is all. You need to always think about simple solution. If your solution isn't simple, probably you don't choose the right solution. Okay? I've been working in a lot of startup, and when the startup start with complicated solution, and you started your time wasting. Okay, this is the main conclusion of me using a lot of projects. Okay, the keys there. Who knows what's its keys? Okay. Yeah, smart, not stupid. I think another word about the template, that if you use template, this note that I forgot. If you use template and you build a template, never use the exactly HTML code. Just use the add script and the add style sheet, This is help for other to make some tricks. And for example, for unify all your JavaScript after you render all your templates, it's very easy when you use only the add script, add style sheet, because when you unified or zipped or gzipped this code at the end, what do you do? It's very important to use add style sheet and add script instead of push to the template script HTML code or CSS code. This is tip that if you are a template builder. Okay, I think. And for the end, TP2 is my little sponsor. He have a discount here. TP2 is I have two reasons that I know the Joomla architecture. The first, that my first website in 2007 was multi-site website, and I needed to make 80 websites on the same Joomla install. So I need to research about the architecture. And the second is this TP2 extension that I needed to research and know how Joomla render the modules and the template. So this is discount for the event. Okay. I think. Question? Yes.
Can you come
Back.
back?
Not so much.
Just tell me.
About what?
Okay.
Oh.
What for stands UCM and what is ORM?
Oh. UCM is Unified Content Module.
Okay.
I think there will be a session about UCM.
I think yes. It's about that all the content will be based on the same content structure, and when you extend and you add another content entity like banner or product, you use the basic content structure and you just extend it. Okay? Design patterns, one of the targets of design pattern is to lose capital, and the law is of design pattern is just close to modification but open for extension. So this is design pattern rule, and UCM use it. And another ORM is object relationship mapping, yes. So because it gives it layer before the database, it's much more easier for NoSQL. I'm using MongoDB lately, and it's very you can't, I think, to use MongoDB for Joomla, but if you would use some ORM, it would make it much easier to use it. Why? It's very complicated question. Why you can't use Joomla with NoSQL, but I can answer it with a beer. So it's a very long answer.
In which version?
UCM? HMVC, I think they push it in 3.0, and UCM going to be in 4.0. This is the latest news that I heard, because the UCM is very a lot of message change in the core. Twice is just a method that we will use. Andrew. Twice? Yeah. Yes. So twice is going to be, I think, at least 4.0. HMVC, I think the lecture going to be, but HMVC, I'm not sure about it. If eBay do it or somebody else. Question? Me and Michael talking very fast.
What's the benefit of using this HTML?
Sorry, pardon?
What's the benefit of using HTML?
With UQ code, if you have, I've wanted to override some core, a view of banners, and it was hard, very hard to do that. I just wanted to flip the default PHP file of the view, and I couldn't do that. I just take all the view, I put it in the plugin, and the plugin override. So with HMVC it's much easier. You tell the controller, don't use this controller, and other controller controller view and model.
And you
Combine them, yes.
if you want to display a piece of content together with a user record, you can do so by calling two controllers within your component. So you can on one call, on one request, you can call a set of controllers and combine their output.
Yeah, you can call another controller for another component that is not even related to yours.
Yeah. So you can combine that output into your page. And that's a very interesting feature.
So you don't need to basically rewrite a code that is written already.
Yeah, the problem is that if you want to let's say, if you have a shop like eBay and you want to show the seller together with the product, you have a problem now. You can either show the seller or the product. And with the HMVC, you are able to pull both and put them together on a single page.
It's running two components at the same time. So to say,
Yeah.
this is
Another trick that I use that I talked about JFactory that you can get the database with getDBO, but your model have getDBO also. And I did it in some component when I did a multi-site, and I needed to connect to another database. But I didn't use the JFactory getDBO. I just set DBO of the model, and then you can use DBO for each model of MVC. So this is another trick. If you need to connect to another database not connected with Joomla, you can use it with set DBO of the model object. Another trick if you need. More question? So thank you very much.